Can you tell us more about iDreamSky and about yourself?
Sure. I've been working in the industry for 18 years, and I co-founded iDreamSky in 2009 with Michael Chen. And you know, I've always been an avid gamer. My mom used to scold me about like playing games too much, and gaming is not going to take me anywhere in the world. And today I can really tell my mom proudly, like, yeah, you know, gaming is feeding me now. For iDreamSky, you know, we started the company in 2009 as an outsourced developer. And in 2011, we kind of transformed the company into a game publisher or a game distributor model. And since then, we've worked on some of the best Western titles, such as we started with Fruit Ninja, then Angry Bird, then Temple Run, and you know, last year we worked on Cats and also Gardenscape. This year we have some blockbuster title also coming up, but yet to be announced. But we should be making an announcement very soon. So for the longest time, you know, iDreamSky have been known as the premium window into going to one of the hardest market to crack, China. And we have helped a lot of developers on cracking the Chinese market. If you look at historically the most influential Western game in China, you will always see iDreamSky in the background. And not only we're publishing Western title, we're also representing Chinese title in the Chinese market. Our company is invested by Tencent and also Lenovo. And we were listed in 2014 on NASDAQ, and we delisted ourselves in 2016. Yes.
Wow, quite a big success there. And all the titles that you just mentioned to us, those are all super popular titles in the West. So what games have you played lately? And it cannot be any games that you guys publish. Share with us.
Well, I've been playing a lot of PUBG on mobile.
Okay.
I've been playing a lot of, I don't know the English name for it in US, 王者荣耀, the King of Valor.
Yep.
By Tencent. So of course I like Tencent's games. In terms of Western titles, you know, I always have a thing for tower defense. So we actually work on Subatomic Studios' Field Runner. This was one of the first games that I really fell in love early iPhone days. And recently I've been playing Alien Creep by Outplay. We also published Castle Creep before. Sadly, tower defense is not really a big genre in
the Western market.
In the Chinese market even. So yeah, that's the two games. Oh, I still play a lot of Clash Royale, given that I used to be world champion. So yeah.
Cool. Any tower defense game lovers, feel free to sync with Jeff afterwards. All right, so the topic is on China. Can you tell us what are the newest market trends that you see in China for 2018?
Well, I think there's a couple of new trends that I'm seeing. So one is the female gamer uprise in China.
Sure.
So this is the first gold rush. I mean, in US, right now we're also seeing like female gamers increasing, but that's kind of like the second phase in US, because back in Diner Dash days, there's already one uprise. But this is the first uprise in China. Recently there's a couple big games that is rising in China, like romantic story lover type of games.
I know which game you're talking about. I love it.
And also a couple weeks ago there was this like sudden like blockbuster called, I don't know the English name for it, but it's like a frog. The travel frog. And female gamers are really spending a lot of money now. Like like recently I have a boyfriend of mine came to me and say, hey Jeff, you know, can I get some credit? And I'm like, which game are you playing? And like, no, I'm not getting credit for myself. I'm like, so who are you getting it for? And like, for my wife. And I'm like, what? You need credit for your wife? And they're like, yeah, you know.
Right.
And I'm like, which game are you playing? It's like playing Gardenscape. And I'm like, well, it's small money. And like, no, it's not. She's spending way too much money in Gardenscape. And I'm like, oh, wow. So female gamers. Second trend that I'm also seeing is, but this is a trend that I don't think this audience would be able to capture, or games that is highly competitive, which is driven by King of Valor and PUBG now. And it's pretty much Tencent's domain. So games that have a high competitive nature, GVG style,
like
battle style. So that's another trend that I'm seeing. The third trend that I'm seeing is indie games. So since Monument Valley in China, and I think it's also a kind of a gradual trend because gamers in China are now more educated. So we have there's this two eras of gamers, which is one is the very clear era, which is the MMORPG era, where gamer knows that they are gamers, like they play MMORPGs.
They are hardcore gamers.
They're hardcore gamers, right? Yeah. The way I define them is they have a specific time slot every day or every week that they will play games. Right. But since mobile, like everyone in China is playing games, and these gamers don't really consider themselves as gamers. Right. To them, game is one of the main medium format for them to spend their time on their mobile device or spend their time for entertainment. So this group of gamers is getting a lot more mature, so they're not just attracted by the big blockbuster anymore. They have their own unique taste. So with Monument Valley introducing to the market a couple years ago, now they're looking for more of these style of content, which it's very emotional and they feel connected to it.
Right. More unique, offering like some innovation to the MMO and RPG genre in Chinese market. Yeah, so that's very interesting. So first, female gamers. I mean, we control the wallet, right? We do have a lot of money to spend. And second is just create a lot of interaction with a lot of battling in the game to player versus player is key. And the third thing is just innovative genres to introduce to the Chinese market.
Yeah, specifically player versus player genre is like, it's not one versus one. Like there's one key element that is important to Chinese gamer is the ability where if you are the better game, you're the more professional one or you're the more higher level one, you're able to bring along your friend to play against someone else.
You want to show off in a game.
Yes. That's a very key element
right.
in most of the competitive game in China.
Right. Obviously, you know a lot about the Chinese market, but we don't. So what are the three common challenges that you see that Western developers they face when they enter China? And then what are your advice on how to conquer them?
So, of course, the first challenge that you will face is government regulations, licensing and all that stuff. On iOS, you don't really specifically face that challenge. Like right now, if you register a game in iOS, they will ask you for that license code, but it's not necessary that you need to have that license code to be publishing your game in China. But for Android store, you definitely need that license code. So that will be your first challenge, and without a Chinese partner helping you on acquiring that license, it's impossible for you to get it. So that's the first challenge. The second challenge is
just to make sure everybody knows. So back in 2016, the Chinese government put in regulation for all the games in China. So if your mobile games, if you want to be launching to the Chinese market, you need to get a government's approval to do that and then to assign you a license code for it. And that makes it very challenging for Western developers. You definitely need a local partner to help you to go through all the approval process, getting all the requirements.
Yeah, and that normally takes 6 months.
It takes a while,
That's a big problem because a lot of people only start thinking about this problem when they launch the game in US. So when they have launched the game, then they find a partner, get the partner to start the licensing process. It normally means that you have a delay of anywhere from 6 to 9 months, right? Now, if your game is extremely successful, then you have already lost 9 months of traction in China. Like a lot of your Chinese users may be playing the US version already, then when a Chinese publisher actually publish it, most of the core users is already in the US version, then that becomes a problem where you don't have the initial users to snowball it. Or during that 9 months, your game has already died.
I know. Right. Well, okay, sorry to interrupt you. What's the second challenge that you were going to say?
The second challenge is, that I think most game developers face, and I was just explaining to Pepe, is a lot of developer in the West, because iOS do not require the license, they actually launch the game on iOS China. And that becomes a problem because a lot of the publishers in China, including iDreamSky, we do not like to publish games that we only get the Android publishing right.
Gotcha.
Not only because from a revenue standpoint, but it's also from a marketing position standpoint.
For sure, yeah.
Right. So if I'm launching a TV ad campaign, and you own the iOS rights, so how do we split that? Right. And it becomes a dilemma to a lot of developers because pulling down the Chinese app, then they're losing revenue, right?
Yeah, of
so
course,
it's better that if you're serious about going into the Chinese market, then it's better that you find a publisher early on and have them to do both iOS and Android together.
For sure. Yeah, if from user's perspective, I like Clash Royale, or what I care is the Android or Google Play. Or Android.
Yes. So the third challenge is understanding user behavior in China, right? First of all, is most of the tracking tool that is used in the West doesn't really work in work well in China. And even if those two actually works well in China, because most of the analytic tool is embedded with certain behavior matrix, that those matrix doesn't necessarily stay true when it comes to Chinese users, right? So when you launch a game in China, you need to make sure that you are hooked with the right analytic tool that knows how to analyze Chinese user behavior to give you the right report and to give you the right kind of matrix for you to optimize your game going forward.
We can share that from Chartboost perspective as well. We always want to make sure our dashboard is accessible to every Chinese developer. And we go through the same problem. If your game have any Google empower elements or any Apple, well, Apple is fine, like Google, Facebook, watch out for all of those and make sure you take all of those out. Otherwise, it won't work in China. Your user will be like, why is just loading forever? Because it's blocked by the government's Great Firewall.
Yeah. So like some of the analytical tools still works, like from Chartboost and from a couple ad networks. Those work quite well because they have an international footprint, but ones that is like relying on Google, relying on Amazon, those would be
AWS.
Yeah, those would be the problem, the ones that will have problems.
Right, that's very true. So can you give us a quick example of successful Western titles in China and a failed title in China?
Well, successful title there
really
aren't that many of them, and I would say most of them is published by me. So I'm not advertising my service, but one of the most recent hit that we have, Cats. We crossed 1 million DAU in just a week of launch.
Yeah,
and
super popular.
We went through really serious customization. They were using a lot of AWS, so we actually need to port a lot of those technology over to China. And in fact, when we first test launched the game, we actually have big problem with it. So when we first launched, when we did a soft launch in China, I remember like my team was going like crazy about it because the first day, like the 4 store that we launched, we attract like the attraction of the game, the conversion from ads to actual downloads was extremely high, like super high. Like we're talking about like 70% people converting, right? And that's like unheard of kind of conversion for iDreamSky. So we thought the game is doing so well that we were already thinking like, do we even need to continue this soft launch? Yeah, we're fine. But by the 3rd day, our retention was really bad, like super bad. Like it was like below like 7% on 3rd day retention. Right, and we were like shocked by it. We're like, what happened here, right? So many users got converted and no one stayed. Right, only 7% stayed. And what it turned out to be, it was because, how many here knows the game Cats? Like, right, most of you have seen Cats. So it's a game that is like really cute cats, right? And you assemble your own tank, right? And you fight it out with your friend. So the problem was we got extremely high conversion because we attract a lot of female gamers,
users,
right? Or a lot of cat lovers, right? So they download the game, and because of cats, then they realized the game is
it's
not really about cats, right? The cats are still there. It's not like we're lying to them, but the gameplay is a physics game, right? It's kind of like a hyperdrive Angry Bird game. So they don't understand the game mechanics, so they drop the game, right? But then we look at the data, which is the people that actually stayed, they actually love the game, right? So we went through like another 3 months of marketing strategizing. Like, so what we know is like, okay, so that means we need to specifically target the right users, right? And with our app partners and also with our in-house analytic and user behavior matrix, we were able to target the right users. So we launched the game at the China national holiday, and we crossed 1 million DAU in the first week, and we were able to continue to attract and retain the users.
Wow.
So that was a successful story. Failure story, wow. There's so many of them. There's crazy amount of them. I would say the worst one that I've seen recently. The worst one I see recently actually would be.
If you don't have to say the names, just tell us why you failed.
Yes, that's actually, you helped me a lot there. So
I can tell you are like, should I say it? Should I say it?
So a lot of developers, especially the big ones, when they come to China, they would be like, I want the best publisher, right?
Okay.
I want the publisher with the most users. But a lot of them will fall into the trap of working with the big platforms. And this is the thing that I've been telling developers for the longest time. I'm not saying working with big platform is wrong or.
And platform, you mean Android
like app stores, right?
Yeah. Just to clarify.
But platform's goal is not aligned with you, right? Platform just want the newest game.
Right.
And they don't necessarily want one game to be very successful.
They are distribution channels. They need to have a variety of games.
Yes, like they can give you a lot of promotion in the first month, but after that they have to move on, right? So a lot of games that I see from the West when they go to China, they were coming to us and say like, oh, can you guarantee me how much download I'm going to get, right? And I'm like, no, I don't guarantee you downloads. And like, but the other guy is guaranteeing me 50 million downloads, right? And I'm like, well, I don't do that. So if you want 50 million download, go to the other guy. And normally they will get, a lot of the time they won't even get the 15 million download, or they will get really bad 50 million downloads. But the key is, you need a partner to be helping you to operate that 15 million users, right? If you are not able to operate that 50 million user, they will leave very, very fast,
Gotcha.
right? So a lot of the times I see partners that will go to this big platform and say like, yeah, Jeff, I got so much users, but I wasn't able to retain them. I broke the contract with them already. I want you to work on it.
Right.
Can you work on it? We got 50 million downloads, so the game definitely is successful. I'm like, no, you got the deal from them, which is you will get 50 million downloads, irrespective of how your game performs.
They won't help you to retain.
And
then can you tell us, how do you guys help your partners to retain the users? Because I think in general, we all hear about Chinese partners help you to acquire users, help you to distribute your games, but that's it. What else? What can you guys do differently?
Well, every game that we have, we actually operate it. We don't see game as a product, we see games as a service. And so, we're not just like, we're making sure you're on all the app store. We actually help you on developing your update strategy specifically for China. And most time we actually do the development for our partners, which really free them up on focusing on their core regions. So with Subway Server, we have been making their updates for China since the day we launched. And update is very important, right? And to us is we understand the user matrix, then we formulate what we do on the next update, and Subway Server update the game every 3 weeks. So that's how we keep it alive for five years. And
so you run operations for that?
Yeah, we run
create
operations.
Special events for Chinese users to keep
events,
the
holidays, cross promotion, cross merchandising with JD.com, with Tencent, with other platforms, merchandise. We even got like Fruit Ninja into a movie once.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
A local Chinese movie.
Which movie? What is the movie about?
I don't know the English name for it again, but the movie is kind of like a Wreck-It Ralph with Toy Story. So it's the toys are feeling left behind because the girl is now is only playing games. So the toys is going into the gaming world to save the girl, and then realizing that the gaming world there's some like bad guy that is trying to control the girl. So the toys are are working with the good games to fight the bad game, right? And one of the game was Fruit Ninja.
Fruit Ninja is
Yes.
one of the good games.
Yes. The
Cool.
sensei was teaching him how to slash foods. Yeah.
Very cool. So we all know the Android and the iOS market are completely different in China. So can you just tell us the 3 tips that you have for Western developers to tackle the iOS market?
On the iOS market.
Yeah. What will you do?
3 tips on iOS. First, find a partner.
Fine.
Find a good publisher. Now, if you don't have a publisher, okay, so there's 2 different sets of 3 tips, right? One is with a partner, one is without a partner, right? So let's first go with without a partner. So if you don't have a partner, try to work with ad networks that actually works in China.
Right.
Like a lot of ad network claims they work in China,
Right.
but there's only few of them that actually work. Chartboost is being one of them that
I was
actually
going
works.
to ask, what ad networks works in
I
China?
won't name what ad networks don't work in China, and I won't name which one works. I will just name like Chartboost definitely works in China.
Thank you.
All right.
We do.
All
It's
right.
our second biggest country.
Because
just to let you guys know.
if you don't have the ad network, because most ad network provide user analytic, right? So if you don't have the accurate and the correct user analytic in iOS, you're flying in blindly, right?
Sure.
So that's the first thing. The second thing on iOS would be working with the local Apple Store guys. I know most here will be working directly with Cupertino or with your local office, but actually having FaceTime with the local App Store, China App Store, is actually very important, and they like to be respected.
Right.
Of course.
So talk to the Apple China essentially.
Yes. Or set up a meeting through your Cupertino contact to actually talk to them.
Right.
Because Apple China is really powerful now, right? Because if you look at the App Store revenue, Apple App Store China is actually number 1.
Yes.
So they actually have lots of say in what's get promoted, right? Of course, if you get a global promotion, you still get their promotion, but having them to support you on the ground would be a lot better.
That's a very good tip.
Yes. And then the third tip, if you're publishing yourself in iOS, other than working with the ad networks in the West, there are ad networks that you actually also need to work with in China, namely Tencent. Because Tencent actually control a lot of the internet traffic
Local
in China.
inventory,
And some of the super apps like Jinyu Toutiao, which is the news app, these are ads that you also need to work with to make sure that your game have enough traffic to sustain yourself. That's the 3 tips I can give if you don't have a partner. Now, if you have a partner, I think most of the tip I will be giving you is how to pick the right partner.
Right, which will be super applicable to the Android side of things.
Yes. So first is, I know it's very tricky, but finding a partner that have development power would be extremely important. Because you don't want to be handling all the updates yourself in the West. Like you have time delays and a lot of the update that Chinese user needs doesn't apply to your Western needs. So unless you have a huge studio that you can assign dedicated people to work on Chinese update, finding a partner that can handle that development for you in China will be extremely important. So that's the first thing. The second thing is finding a partner that actually can penetrate into different platforms. If you find a partner that can only penetrate Tencent, or you find a partner that can only penetrate 360, then you might as well just go to 360 directly, right? But if you're finding a partner, you need to make sure that they can give you they can maximize your penetration into the market. So finding a partner that have track record of publishing in multiple app store and in the same time getting good result in multiple app store will be another matrix that you look for. And then the third thing that you will look for is a partner that is transparent enough, right? It's not going to be as transparent as you wish in the West, but finding a partner that is willing to share your data, share your dashboard, maybe even allowing you to put your own tracking mechanism into your app so you can have like a second layer of tracking to to compare with your partner
Gotcha.
result. These are some ways of seeing is your partner transparent enough, right? Because if they're not willing to be transparent, sometimes it means that they're kind of shady.
Right.
However, I have to say, if your partner is going to use telco billing, don't ask them to be transparent because there's no way that they can be transparent with
telephone
telco
billing.
Yes.
Carriers.
Because
Carriers.
carrier billing is by definition is not transparent. So if a partner tells you like, yeah, I can give you transparent result in telco billing, is that they're really just BSing you.
So just additional context. In China, it's still very common for gamers to pay games through their carriers. So it shows up in your phone bill, essentially.
Yep. Yep. But that trend is moving more on
Right.
online billing, like WeChat billing, Alibaba billing. So that's like for some of our newer games like Cats and also Gardenscape, we don't even use telco billing at all now. Yeah, so.
Very interesting, very insightful. So last question, and after this, we are going to open the questions to the audiences.
Sure.
So if you have $1 million, you can invest in any company. What company will you invest it to, and why?
But it's probably too little, right? You're like,
That's a great answer. We have our co-founders and CEO sitting right in the audience. Perfect.
All right. Yeah. So if I have $1 million, what will I be investing? In the West or in China? And let's say globally. Right now, for iDreamSky, we're looking very deeply in AI. There's a lot of process that can be automated by AI, so that's one thing that we're looking at a lot. We're also looking at AR and VR technologies.
Right.
We don't think the AR and VR is going to be huge. AR I think now we kind of have an idea how big it is. It's going to be big eventually, but not anytime soon. But we're investing in companies that are creating technology that will be fundamental when AR and VR eventually catch up.
Got it.
Right? And now because AR and VR craze is over, so they're not overhyped anymore. Like I remember last year coming to GDC and everyone's talking about AR. And everything is like 100 million, right? Yeah. Like any company, like I'm trying to make AR blah blah. 100 million, please.
Well, are you talking about AR, VR games specifically?
No, not even games. We're looking at like recently we come up, there's a company that have this AR patent about like how they pinpoint surface and coloring of certain things, and we believe that this will be will be something important in the future when AR really picks up. So these are something that will be very interesting, and I think it's very, very undervalued. I'm not I know a lot of people here today will be looking at blockchain.
Right, I was going to ask that.
and stuff. I'm not a huge believer of cryptocurrency.
Blockchain.
I'm a huge believer of blockchain.
Okay. The technology.
The technology, but I think right now it's a little bit overhyped again. Everyone is making their own like cryptocurrency again. Yeah. So I'm looking at more technology that relies on blockchain or ride on the wave of crypto. Rather than investing specifically into another coin or another blockchain. I think blockchain for gaming in the long run will be very, very important and could potentially really disrupt the whole market in terms of like cloud hosting and stuff like that. So if I have $1 million today, that will be something that I'll be looking at.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing with us. All right, now we want to open this to everybody. Any questions to ask Jeff?
Jeff, have you seen branded content in the Chinese market, especially cartoon and retro games, which are making a comeback, should I say, in Western? So games like Tom and Jerry, this type of branded content, Cartoon Network branded content.
So branded games. There is a part of it for China, but they're mostly Japanese anime IPs rather than Western IPs. I can't remember. I actually, NetEase did publish Tom and Jerry, and they did get some traction, but I think the game is not that good, so that's why they lost a lot of users. But if you really want to go Western cartoon IP, then you really go really way back, like Tom and Jerry days, like Disney days.
Right.
Those are the IP that actually penetrated into the market. The recent one in Cartoon Networks, like maybe the most recent one that Chinese user actually knows would be like SpongeBob's, right? And that's pretty much it. Because after that, a lot of Chinese cartoons already swamping into China, so they cut off all the influence on there. Second is retro gaming. So there's really no retro gaming in China because Chinese only start playing games. There's two sets of users. One set of users start playing games in 2002, 2003. So they're all MMO guys, right? And then the second set comes in at 2008, which is the mobile guys, right? So all the pixelated games to them, those are not retro. To them, that's just bad art. Like I actually published a couple of pixelated games.
So Pac-Man.
Yeah, like Pac-Man would be the only one that I think they will understand why it is pixelated because they've seen the image of it, but it's not like they have played the game.
Do they see Pac-Man and other these retro type games as brands?
I think the only retro game that they see as brand I can name them would be Mario, Pac-Man, and Bubble Dragon, and Contra, and a few like 1942. That would be the only few that they know. But everything else that Western user would know, they would not know about it.
Yeah.
You mentioned about telco billing, which was interesting. Is subscription-based model stores, Netflix type idea gaming stores, which are becoming bigger as an alternative for premium content? Have you seen those? Is that you're paying on your bill for premium content rather than buying items on telco?
Well, China have a long history of using subscription model in a lot of games.
Right.
And it have a very bad reputation because a lot of the guys that used to do subscription, they trick the user into subscribing and make it extremely hard for them to unsubscribe and then use. Yes, right. But it's resurfacing now because Apple is pushing a lot on the subscription model again, and we're one of the early adopters for that. We actually put in quite a few subscription models in a lot of our games, including Senseiya and a couple more. And they are definitely showing traction, and that's one of the way that we also work on indie games, which is more episodic type of game. We use subscription models. But telco style subscription is not really a thing right now in China anymore.
Right.
Thank you.
I would say the drive is more because the lack of the credit card system there. That's why there's this additional payment method there for it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're good, right? All right.
Thanks. Do you have any advice for small indie teams wanting to enter China that may not have the resources like a big company to dedicate to like this communication, that are maybe 3, 4, 5 person teams that are only like developers, like non-artists?
Well, indie developers are, by the definition, mostly 3, 4 people, right? Or maybe 5, right? You definitely need a partner. You definitely need a partner. There's a couple publishers that specifically focus in helping indie developers into breaking into the Chinese market. Of course, iDreamSky is being one of them. There's a couple more, like it's very easy to search them, find them online. And I would say working with the publisher on indie games, what you should be focusing on is one, establishing because mostly indie games are very strong visual, you have a very strong concept of the game. So communicating with your publisher on day one, what's your red line? Like this is the vision that I'm trying to tell, right? So don't do anything, don't customize my game in any way that will dilute or pollute the vision that I have. And everything else is fine, right? A lot of indie games went in with a publisher without telling them that vision, and most publishers don't understand there's such a thing called vision in the game. So they will say like, hey, I'm just trying to make you more money, right? So I want to change this, I want to change that, right? And a lot of the time, it's after the contract is signed, then the publisher is like, I want to change this, and you're like, but it doesn't fit with my vision. Don't you understand my vision? And it's like, no, I don't, right? And you're like, oh crap, no, you cannot do that. And they were like, well, if you don't let me do this, then what are we doing here, right? And that is where everything falls apart. So making sure you communicate with them on day one. That's your gaming vision. That is what is that's the feeling or the experience I'm trying to give to my users. So anything that will pollute that process, I don't want it, right? And if they're okay with it, then sign them up, right? But if they're not okay with it, then work with another guy.
You mentioned that you started the company in 2009, and I'm kind of curious, what were some of the earlier challenges? I'm sure a lot of things were different in 2009 in China. And the second question is there a good story too, how you came up with the company name?
Oh,
iDreamSky.
right. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was a huge challenge because when we started the company in 2009 and we decided to go into the mobile gaming publishing distribution business in 2010, 2011, there is no payment solution for mobile.
No.
Like zero. There's not even telco billing.
Yeah.
So we were just hoping that eventually
China, no.
we will be able to charge user. Not eventually user is willing to pay, right? So when we started doing, and there's no even ad sales back then,
no.
right? There's no Chartboost, there's no ad network. So basically we were just publishing game for free, like literally for free. And having that determination and keeping ourselves able to sleep at night, running a business that actually generates zero revenue is the biggest challenge for us in the initial period. The good thing is we made the right bet, which is eventually, like, it took us like 9 months before China Mobile were like, okay, we need to provide billing gateways for mobile games, and then we can start making money. The name iDreamSky is funny because actually when I co-founded the company with Michael, we only have a Chinese name. We don't have an English name.
Lodo, yes.
Right, and Lodo is actually a name afterwards. So originally is Chuangmeng, right? And we came up with the Chinese. The Chinese name is all three founders. We were workers. We were not like we were not like Princeton. We don't have like lots of money from our parents, or we exited the big company, so we have money ourselves, right? So we wanted to create a place where not only we can realize our dream. Right. We want to create a work environment where our staff can also dream big. Right? So that's why we started the Chinese name called Chuangmeng, which is literally like creating dreams. Then iDreamSky came in was because I was supposed to do a press release in English, and it was like 3 hours before the press release is going to go live. And then the reporter's like, Jeff, like Chuangmeng in English doesn't really make sense. Do you have an English name? And I'm like, good question. Hey, Michael, what's our English name? Come up with something, Jeff. And I'm like, you want me to come up with our English name in 3 hours? And back then it's all the I craze, right? The I something, I whatever, right?
That's
so why. I was like, well, it makes sense to be called, so that's iDreamSky, yeah.
Well, and now it's everywhere on every GDC batch every year. So iDreamSky.
Thank you.
Any more questions? No. All right. Thank you, Jeff, for coming. Thank you for sharing such great